Hello everyone, welcome to Rapture, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a review of the One Drop Parlay. Now this is a One Drop collaboration with Static Unresponsives, so not just One Drop, but Static Unresponsives as well. I had planned to do an unboxing of this guy, but got a little impatient. I couldn't wait to open it, so I figured since I've already thrown it, I might as well just do a little review for you guys, put it back in the box just so you guys can, see how it came, have that unboxing experience anyway. So, as expected, the One Drop typical box, at least maybe not too typical for me. I haven't bought a new yo-yo in over a year. I don't yo-yo quite as often, so it's very hard to convince myself to spend money on these things anymore. They're not the cheapest things in the world, but this one I just had to get. We'll get into that in a little bit, but yes, the One Drop white box with the little viewing window in the front, the OD logos up top, and yeah, I think I've only gotten one other One Drop that came in these white boxes. I'm still used to the old brown One Drop boxes with the cube, with the sponge cube inside, the foam cube. I remember when they retired the foam cube. It was a sad day. So yes, a little interesting, came with a Vanguard sticker. Don't know why it would come with a Vanguard sticker, but whatever. Very cool sticker regardless. So here we have the Parlay. I got the Pewter version, which is a sort of a gunmetal gray. These are side effects, the flat caps. And this string looks a little beat. That's because I have already used it. So let's get that out of here. Just take a look at everything. Now I'm not going to crack this open. I tend to not crack my yo-yos open unless I absolutely have to. But yeah, there it is. This yo-yo was designed, this is why I was so interested in getting it. I couldn't really help myself. This yo-yo was designed to sort of have a nostalgic feel for players that used to throw back in the 2000s. Those people that are nostalgic about yo-yos that didn't quite feel perfect because they weren't quite perfect. A lot of yo-yos nowadays are designed for competition, and they're just beasts, and most of them are fairly large. So by today's standard, this is definitely undersized. I have the specs right here. Diameter is 53.6, width is 40.3, gap width of 4.32, and a weight of 62 grams. Of course, we have the typical One Drop 10 ball bearing and the 19 millimeter slim flow groove response. So yeah, I really wanted this yo-yo because some of my favorite yo-yos, I think it's kind of embarrassing to think that I've been throwing this long and I'm not very good, but on and off. So that's my excuse. But so a lot of my favorite yo-yos are yo-yos that I bought that came out sort of right before I started playing. Like I would get them on trades and off the forum. And it's those yo-yos that did come out in the 2000s, and they're not quite perfect yo-yos. Like the Woolly Marmot is one of my favorites. The OG Project, one of my favorites. So yo-yos like that, which they're great. They have a lot of personality to them, but when you really push them, you can tell they're not the most stable things in the world. They don't have the longest spin time, but for me, that gives it a lot of charm. I feel that a lot of the the competition-oriented yo-yos, after a while, they just all feel a bit too similar for me. So let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of this yo-yo. It's got the One Drop Pure Matte finish. I'll be honest, not my favorite finish. I love the way it looks. I prefer the feel of a nice bead blast, but no complaints about the Pure Matte finish. It sort of reminds me of like the closest thing you can get to a raw metal finish while still giving you a good grinding surface. So I've noticed when it's a little bit humid outside, or maybe your hands are a little sweaty, it doesn't grind quite as well as a bead blast, but it gets the job done. I've never gone for a grind with a pure mat and sort of had it fail me to the point of ruining the trick. So it does the job, just not quite my favorite finish. I'll say on the string, it's got a bit of a floaty feel, but still a definite presence. Again, it reminds me of one of my favorite yo-yos, the One Drop Project. So the project is kind of hard to explain how it feels because it's so unique. It has a definite, man, I can't think of a good word for this, but a definite presence. You can definitely feel that it's there. You know where it is at all times, but it just feels at home when it's sort of hopping around because it's got that level of float to it. It feels right at home, jumping around through like very tight, complicated string formations. So one of the first things I noticed, Grandma Kimmett's sandwich is one of my favorite tricks. So right away I tried to throw that, and this thing just responded so well to that trick. It feels great. I did it flawless the first time, and no, that doesn't usually happen, especially with new yo-yos that I'm playing with for the first time. It's very, there's a lot of hops, like sequential hops in that trick, and you sort of have to be used to the feel of the yo-yo to get it to work out for you, at least for me, because I'm not that great. And this yo-yo just worked for me. It worked perfectly. And that's saying a lot. You know, yo-yos are all about personal preference, and this one just landed right in that sweet spot. And I'm not big on the forums. I don't follow the yo-yo community quite as much as I used to, so I don't know how much hype is surrounding this little guy. But if there is a hype train, I am getting on it. I am boarding the hype train right now. Whoop, I feel like I need to sneeze. Is it gonna happen? Whew. All right, excuse me. So yes, I am boarding that hype train right now. If there is not a hype train, I am going to attempt to start that hype train right now because I'm going to make some pretty outlandish comparisons. So I've already compared it to my OG project. It feels very similar to the OG project. Now here comes the hype train. I'm also going to do a little bit of comparing to the Woolly Marmot, the Caribou Lodge Canvas, and the Markmont Classic. So just by looking at them, you can sort of tell that they're in the same family of yo-yos, so to speak. But I think the most similar, at least in the way that it's designed, is the Woolly Marmot. And I just say that just by looking at it. The Woolly Marmot has more of a step to it. It sort of has this rim that steps down into the flat wall, as opposed to this, where it's more shaped like the canvas, where it's just a nice organic shape all the way down. And sort of, if you look at the canvas, on the inside here, I should probably open this. Whatever, I'll do it for you guys. So if we crack the canvas open, it's got this groove right around the response area. And that's sort of to have the old school high wall that you're used to seeing on older yo-yos, but to take sort of reduce the friction so that you can have the feel of the weight distribution of a high wall without all the downside and the friction of a high wall. So this Parlay has that same sort of groove, which I found interesting. And it's definitely helpful. It does what it's intended to do. Other comparisons is you see that there's this sort of flat part of the rim on the outside that sort of concaves inward, and then there's this rounded wall. This is round all the way down. The Woolly Marmot has a sort of step in it, but again, right when you get all the way down to the sort of the hub area, it rises. There's a little bump here, and then it falls into the center where we have this sort of spike or this raised area right dead center in the hub. So as far as the design is concerned, very similar to the Marmot, obviously bigger. The Marmot's 50 millimeters, this is 53, but you can just sort of follow all the angles, and they are very similarly designed. if I can say so. As far as feel is concerned, I think it feels most like the Markmont Classic. Again, you can just see the similarities here, but it feels like sort of a smaller, more peppy and agile version of the Classic. The Classic sort of strikes me as a not necessarily slow. It can go fast when you need it to, but just a laid back yo-yo. Same thing here, but just a little bit more pep. It feels like it wants to hop around, like I mentioned earlier. And of course, also reminds me in feel to the project, just that it has that weighted feeling, like you know where it is, but again likes to float around, likes to hop, likes to jump. If I may say so, sorry if I offend anyone by saying this, but the Parlay sort of feels like what I wanted the Rebirth to feel like. The Rebirth was sort of a redesign on the OG project, another iteration of the project. I know there was like the Markmont Next, and things like that, and Classic as well. But it really just felt like what I wanted an updated version of the project to feel like. So there's a lot of comparisons for you guys. Hopefully you guys are familiar with some of these, so that'll help you sort of understand where I'm coming from with this yo-yo, or with this review. I'd say that, it is designed to play like an older yo-yo, like a sort of imperfect yo-yo with modern touches like the response groove and things like that. So with that being said, I will say it handles anything you can throw at it, really. I was able to get 1 minute combos out of this thing if I was very consciously playing cleanly. Again, keep in mind, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not the best player ever, so I think you can definitely compete with this. Any modern yo-yo is capable of competing. Even the $20 plastics nowadays are just absolutely ridiculous. It's all you need. But yeah, you can definitely compete with this if you wanted to. However, I would not buy this yo-yo if that, like, for that sole purpose. It's a very fun yo to play with. It's capable of competing, I'm sure, if you wanted to, but that's not really what the design is intended for. So just keep that in mind. Another thing I wanted to add is that it can do those 1 minute combos. It does not respond quite as well to slop. If you hit your hands, I have yo-yos, for example, like my Arctic Circle or my Facade, where I hit my fingers or just have like really terrible sloppy hops, and they just sort of beast through it like it's not even an issue. This one, not so much. If you do make those mistakes, if you hit your hands and things like that, you can tell you are going to cut off some spin time. But I think that's to be expected with a shape and a size like this, and sort of the intention of the design. That is no surprise to me at all. I am not great at all at horizontal play, so I don't think I can speak too much to it, but I just wanted to say, with an organic yo-yo like this that's relatively undersized, you can't expect horizontal play to be as good as something that's designed for competition, something that's V-shaped or H-shaped even. So yeah, I think horizontal play, if you're already good at horizontal play, you can pull it off. I think with modern yo-yos, the spin times are good enough and the stability is good enough to really do horizontal on whatever you feel like. But if you're just getting into horizontal play, or you want to learn horizontal play, I don't think this is the best choice. But given the shape, given the design, given the intention of the design, this is designed to play as if you could buy it at like a 2007 World Yo-Yo Contest. And forgive me if I'm wrong here, but back in 2007, horizontal yo-yoing wasn't really much of a thing yet. Now, sort of, if you see a yo-yo routine, you expect to see horizontal. If you don't see horizontal, the performance might be a little bit subpar for you. So again, just keep that in mind. This yo-yo, I don't think a horizontal play was much of a concern when this was designed, so it's not going to be its best facet. So again, sorry, just wanted to add that in. As far as the response and the bearing are concerned, this is a 1-drop 10 ball, 1-drop flow groove. Some of the best in the game. There's not really much to be said about it. It does what it's supposed to do very, very well. The 1-drop 10 ball, I'd say, luckily for me, I don't like my yo-yos to be completely dead smooth. I feel like when my yo-yos are completely dead smooth and silent, you can't even tell they're spinning. I feel like that deadens a little bit of the personality for me. So I like my bearings not necessarily dry, but just not perfectly quiet and perfectly smooth. I'm sure if I put a drop of lube in here, that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be perfectly dead silent. It's going to be perfectly dead smooth. I've never had a 1-drop that was not perfectly silent and dead smooth when it's lubed. I think my bearing was a little bit more dry when I got it out of the box. For me, that's awesome. That's how I like them. But yeah, no worries as far as vibe or anything like that's concerned. I've never had a 1-drop that was less than dead smooth. So yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about it. I might have maybe more in-depth opinions to share later. If you have any questions, ask me. I haven't played with this thing too much, but I figured I already unboxed it. I might as well do this for you guys. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and come back for more. So thank you very much, guys.